Says we're live. Oh, look, we're getting the thumbs up. We're live. No one currently watching, so we can do whatever we want, I guess.
Fantastic. No one?
So this is the people right here, I guess.
I don't have my glasses.
We've got a thumbs up, though.
That was Bradley. It's probably my mom.
What's wrong with you?
She probably gave us a thumbs up.
Oh, really? Nice. Put the mic directly in the middle between you guys. That's great.
Right there. I think I need to bring the light down. My eyes are like so deep and shadowy.
How's that? Better. Yeah. I skipped hair and makeup today. That was a bad choice. I didn't see myself. Oh, Mason Miller, Jack Swift.
What does that say? Go.
16 are watching.
Hi, 16.
Hey guys.
Hi, friends.
How's it going?
We're going to wait to start until we have 1 million.
1 million.
Ish.
Yeah, give or take a couple 100,000.
So I can read the words on the screen. Oh, hi.
Live Slay.
Hi, Miss Soleil. How are you? Good.
Yeah, it's hard to have a one-way conversation.
It's true. I'm just gonna
It's as fast as they can
assume that they're
Yeah.
responding to me. There it is.
I'm kidding. I miss camp too.
I do too.
I'm still here.
Even though it's like right
Yeah,
here.
it's right over there.
Hey, Jay.
Jake Old.
Jack Swift. 6 feet. Ooh, sorry, Mason.
Oh, that's a good call.
Yeah.
Then we can be out. That's so funny. That's good. It's an optical illusion with the camera.
They're commenting. I can't read unless I have my glasses.
The go teachers.
Maybe you'll have to talk to the director about that one, Jack. You gonna give us the go sign, Bradley?
Yeah, 26. You guys want to get started? Go for it.
Awesome. Hey, welcome to this last episode of this season for Woodlands Plus. So glad you guys are joining us. We are in the Big John's house. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Glad to have you.
Thanks so much for having
I
us.
should have had a fire in the fireplace.
That would
Sorry.
have been
Yeah.
awesome. So today we're playing one of my favorite games to play. It's a lot of fun. It's called If You Could Ask Big John Anything, what would you ask him? And I'm actually going to go. I've got some questions that campers asked.
Yep.
Campers, if you have questions, go ahead and comment below, and we'll be asking those along the way. But I'm going to go completely off script because we're live and you have to answer.
Oh boy.
How long has it been since you have cut your hair or trimmed up the goatee?
So the goatee has been going, I've been trimming it along the way, but the goatee started November 1st for No Shave November.
Sure.
I did have one little hiccup because this is the first time I've had facial hair. It was 47 years into my life before I was able to actually grow facial hair. I was trimming it and forgot that the guard wasn't on the trimmer and basically shaved my mustache accidentally. So the mustache is back now, but my hair, I'm usually a 3 weeks between cut kind of guy, but we're working on 10 weeks now with the whole virus thing. So I am hoping to get a little trim job here pretty soon.
That's awesome. Well, I've got a couple questions, and I'm going to start heavy with the first question that everyone's been asking. Will camp happen? When will we know? Is summer going to be canceled?
Yeah, I actually see a couple of questions popping up about that. So that is the question of the day. And we're actually going to kind of kick that question to the very end, if that's cool.
Yeah.
We'll loop back around at the end. and talk about what summer might look like for summer 2020.
Well, let's start off with something a little lighter than
Okay.
that. So John asked, not you, John, a different John with an H. What is your favorite summer camp theme of all time?
So I'll answer it two ways. The very first summer ever in 1998 was the Battle of Nacoochee Valley.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I didn't even know.
Nacoochee Valley is just like 10 miles that way. And it was the Cherokees and the Chickasaws was our first ever theme. So that was kind of fun. That was the only time we ever did that. But I think my favorite one was the first time that we did Pirates and the Buccaneers back in summer 2007.
Yeah.
The Pirates of the Caribbean had come out not long before that. And so just all the music that went along with that and the costuming that went along with that. And even we played this game where we took these plastic gold doubloons and hid them around the camp and gave points for campers that could find them. And literally to this day, every once in a while, we still find one of those plastic gold doubloons from summer 2007. So I think my favorite camp theme ever would have to be probably Pirates and Buccaneers.
A long time ago. That was my last summer as a camper.
Wow.
True story. Sarah asks, as a kid, what did you want to be when you were older? Was it always camp director? Was it something else?
No. I started wanting to be a camp director about 2 days before I moved to Georgia and became a camp director. Actually, growing up, I really wanted to grow up and be like my dad. I'm from Indiana, and my dad has started a manufacturing company in Indianapolis back in 1976. And I saw how my dad was able to take that company and leverage it to do some pretty cool things, like provide for our family and employ a lot of people and help a lot of families and give generously. And so, I kind of wanted to grow up and be my dad and be a business guy. And so I studied business in school, but I worked at camps in college. And so was in banking for a couple of years after college. And then the Lord opened the door for me to move to Georgia and start Woodlands. So camp directoring wasn't really on the radar until right before I came to camp director. I really wanted to be in the business world, but I'm really, really glad I'm not in the business world and I am a camp director. I love my job.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Logan asked, this is a good question. How did you come up with the name Woodlands?
How did I come up with the name Woodlands, Indiana gang, like that? So when I was in college, my buddy Bobby and I were roommates in college. And this is like early 90s, so computers weren't really super mainstream, but I had save, and I bought a new computer, and I bought a game for my computer. It was a Jack Nicklaus golf game. And on that game, one of the features of that game was you could design your own golf course. And so me and my buddy Bobby decided we were going to design a golf course, and it was awesome. It was this wing dinger. And so we got done, and we're like, okay, let's come up with a name. And so we were going to come up with this name for our little fictitious golf course that included both of our names. Well, my last name is Estes. So we're like, Estes. I don't know how we're going to incorporate that into a golf course name. His last name was Wood. And so we're like, okay, forget Estes. Let's go with Wood. So we're like, okay, Wood Crest, no. Wood Ridge, no. Wood Hills, no. Woodlands. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Woodlands, that kind of has a ring to it. So we named our little fictitious golf course in 1992. We named it Woodlands. 5 years later, God led me to move to Georgia and start a camp. And I wanted to come up with just kind of an epic, campy, outdoorsy, cool, not dorky name. And so I had this whole, I wish I still had it somewhere. There's this yellow legal pad with every possible name I could think of. And then all of a sudden it popped in my head from 1992, the name Woodlands. And immediately I knew.
Boom. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, just a reminder, if you have any questions, comment below and we'll try to get to those. But the next one, this is a fun one as well. Sierra asks, how did you come up with German band?
So when I was in college, I worked at camps all 4 summers in college. I worked 2 summers at a little camp in Hawaii and 2 summers at a camp in Pennsylvania. And German Band was actually a song that we did at the camp that I worked at in Pennsylvania. And so I brought that tradition to Woodlands. So it actually has roots in a camp that I worked at up in Pennsylvania.
Nice. That's awesome. Let's see. JD asks, what is your favorite item from the coffee shop?
So spirit of full disclosure, I have not been a coffee drinker for very long.
No.
I actually drank my first ever cup of coffee when I was 43 years old. That's a true story. So, favorite from the coffee shop, I would have to say probably a vanilla Diet Coke. I drink 1 cup of coffee in the morning, and I'm not like I like to sell coffee in the coffee shop. I'm not a coffee shop kind of guy, although the ice rages, those are pretty good. So maybe a cookies and cream ice rage.
There you go.
We'll go there.
How many Diet Cokes are you at? Do you limit yourself?
Yeah, I'm like a 2 a day kind of guy.
Okay.
Maybe one at lunch, maybe one when I get home.
So Drew asks, how has God blessed Woodlands recently?
Oh man, I have a story for y'all. Can I tell y'all a story? Cool. You can't respond, so I'm just going to take that as a yes. So this week on Tuesday, we had our staff meeting, and we're having our staff meeting at the courtyard of the new lodge. And hi, honey. Thank you. And we're having a staff meeting, and like literally right before staff meeting starts, I get up and my phone rings, and I pull the phone out of my pocket, and it's a friend of mine that lives in South Carolina. And I've known this guy for a long, long time, and he loves Woodlands Camp and loves Jesus. And so he's just, hey, how you guys doing? And, how you handling this whole, virus thing? And, what are you thinking about summer? And so then he asked this question. He said, how are we coming on the matching grant? So maybe you've seen on social media, or maybe you've seen in some of the stuff we put out. We had this grant that was offered to the camp, a financial grant, and it was basically if we could raise $100,000 between February 1st and April 30th, that they would donate another $100,000. Mm-hmm. And so we were going really, really well until the whole coronavirus thing hit. Yeah. And then because people are losing jobs and people just don't have the money to be able to give. And so giving really slowed down. And so my friend calls, he's like, how are we doing on the match? And I said, man, giving really slowed down. And, we're just 2 days away from April 30th, and we still need $23,000. And my friend was like, $23,000. Okay. He said, I tell you what, put me down for $5,000 and let me get on the phone and see what I can do. So he says, I'll give $5,000. And so anyway, I get off the phone, I get up in the staff meeting, like an hour later, he calls back and he's like, hey, I just want to tell you, I just got off the phone with another friend of mine, and he said to put him down for $5,000 too. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's $10,000. Guy's awesome. Yeah, for real, And so, okay, we're $13,000 away, and we're getting there, we're getting close. He's like, all right, let me make some more phone calls. So then he calls like 2 hours later, and he's like, I just got off the phone with another guy, and he said to put him down for $5,000 too. And then the first guy called me back and was like, okay, forget $5,000, put me down for $10,000. And so like literally in about 4 hours, this guy got on the phone, and the Lord provided $20,000. And that put us within about $3,000 and change. As of last night, when I looked, we were just $1,300 away. So we're hopeful that maybe some donations were put in the mail in April that will land in the mail here in the next couple of days and get us up, the next $1,300. But that would get us to the $100,000 mark. And if that's true, then that match kicks in and we get another $100,000. So that's something, kind of a long answer, but that's something that really, really cool that we've seen God do just in the last few days.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you can't answer the same question because that's a really cool story. But Liv asked, what is your favorite story from working at Woodlands? Can't tell that one again, but it was good.
Yeah. So generally, the very first time I went to camp, I was in 4th grade, and I got to camp and I opened my Bible, and there was a note from my mom. In fact, I still have the Bible in my office, and I still have the note in my Bible from like 1980 something. And all it said was, it had a verse on there. It said, 3 John verse 4, I have no greater joy than hear that my children are walking in the truth. Love, Mom. And, for me, I've always looked at our campers and our staff almost kind of like my kids. And so, my favorite stories are when I hear stories of campers and staff who had their life changed when they came to Woodlands Camp. We get to have a front row seat every single week of the summer to kids' lives being changed, getting to stand in the back of the auditorium on Wednesday nights and see kids literally cross from death to life, making the decision for themselves to accept God's free gift of salvation. We just had a couple weeks ago, I think, our 40th Woodlands wedding, where summer staffers show up to work here and they catch the eye of a boy or girl and they fall in love and end up getting married. I think we've had 40 of those.
Been there, done that.
Yep. On both fronts. Kimbrough got saved here.
Yeah, wow, on both. Wow.
9th grade.
Yeah.
9th grade teen camper, so those are my favorite stories when we just get to be a little bitty part at this place of God doing something extraordinary in the life of campers or staff.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, that's a good question. What's your favorite Woodlands chants? I'm guessing they know Cheers.
Yeah, it's got to be Peanut Butter Reese Cup. I mean, and for those of you that have been around kind of since junior and junior high camp, Peanut Butter Reese Cup, usually they do it twice. They go through it once and they do it again. Like the first time, it's pretty hype. But like when they round the corner from the first time to the second time, man, it is like a freight train. And the chapel is just like bumping, when they come around the corner and they start that second one. So that's got to be my favorite one.
It's fun when our staff takes that to a rodeo and the first round, everybody's like, what are they doing? The second one, they're like, oh, okay, I'll jump right on.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So Marilee asks, how is the construction of the new camp going?
So we kind of broke the construction up into phases. So phase one was we bought new property. We kind of took down the trees, put in the roads, and then we built the lodge, which if you were here last summer, maybe you saw it up on the hill. The lodge was done last summer. And then the third part of phase one is we built the commons, which is our new cafeteria and new healthcare clinic and kitchen and things. So phase one, as of 2 months ago, is totally done. Phase two, as soon as we can kind of get through all this craziness that is going on in the world right now, phase two will launch, and we're going to be doing kind of a revitalization of the lake, putting in a new beach on the other side toward the other camp, and new water slides and diving boards and a new bridge that will bridge the gap from the old camp or from the new camp over to the new commons and that kind of thing. So that'll happen. And then we'll be building cabins and ball field and trading posts. So our goal is to have the new camp operational by summer 2022, and then have it totally built out by 2024. So those are God-sized goals. Those are not easy peasy goals. So we need you guys to pray for us. But we think that if we could do that by opening the new camp, it would enable 4,000 more kids a summer to attend Woodlands, experience the most epic, incredible, dare I say, unforgettable week of your life, and hear about Jesus.
That's awesome. So Seth asks, what are some positives we could focus on during this pandemic?
That's a really good question, because there are a lot of, if you watch the news, there's a lot of negatives you can focus on for sure. So the positives that you can focus on is one, that even though it seems like, it feels like the world is spinning out of control, God is in control. I've told my kids since they were little that we don't go with what we feel, we go with what we know. And one thing that we know from the Bible is that God is sovereign. Like this pandemic did not catch God by surprise. God knew all about this. God is in control of all of this. So I think that's a major positive, that even though, it seems doom and gloom and that kind of thing, that God's in control. And then the second thing I would say, the second positive we can focus on is this too shall pass. And, through this pandemic, which it is really hard because, it affects, like my brother was diagnosed with it and it really kicked his butt for about a month. It is really hard, but, focusing on not trying to just get through it, but focusing on what God wants to teach us through it, and I think that's a great question for you guys to be asking God in your quiet time, not God, make this go away, but God, what do you want me to learn through this thing? And kind of going through it with a teachable spirit to where on the back end of this thing, you emerge a better version of you than you did when you started.
That's good. Let's see. Ooh, Mason asks, what is your favorite Woodlands Olympic event? That's a good question.
Well, I only get to see one because the Woodlands trivia or the trivia challenge, I usually MC that one. So that one's a pretty good one. Of course, dock wrestling is just an all-time classic. Water slide races, man, a lot of them. So, but I'd have to go with the trivia challenge because that's the one that I get to be a part of.
That's good. So I'm actually curious to know the answer to this one. Madison asks, which is your favorite cabin name?
Probably High Point. And here's why. So when we named each of the cabins, we tried to name them with something that kind of aesthetically described where they are or maybe what the view was. When we named Timber Ridge, it was looking across the lake at the Ridge of Timber, part of which is where my house sits right now. When we named Lakewood, it was, this view of the lake and it kind of sat back in the woods. When we named Pine Cove was actually originally going to be on the other side of the road, right on the edge of the lake. And it would have sat in that little cove of the lake, not in the cove, but right alongside the little cove in a grove of pine trees. But I love High Point because it does sit up on kind of that high point. But it also is the name of the camp. I mentioned the camp a few minutes ago in Pennsylvania that I used to work at. It's the name of the camp in Pennsylvania where I worked at. It's called High Point Camp. And that little season of life back in 1993 and 4 was really impactful. And I didn't know it at the time, but God was really shaping my heart for camp ministry back in that time. So it's kind of neat to honor a camp that had a big impact on my life. So I would say High Point's probably my favorite name.
Awesome. Gracie asks, what do you miss most from your daily or weekly routine?
I'm guessing in the middle of the pandemic. So I'm a pretty, that's a good word. I'm a routine guy. I'm a pretty rhythmic guy. Not in terms of dance moves. I have 0 dance moves, but in terms of just my daily rhythm of life. So I'm fortunate in that I live on the same piece of property that I work at. So for me, my rhythm hasn't really been disrupted very much. I still get up early in the morning and have a cup of coffee and sit out on my porch and have my quiet time. Still exercise. If you're going to be sheltered in place, there are probably worse places to be sheltered in place than Woodlands Camp. So we're pretty fortunate in that the rhythm of life hasn't been disrupted. Kind of the biggest thing is, no, you didn't. We're not going to show us your whipping nay, Christian. I can dance to the German band though. Probably the biggest disruption has been trying to do all the things that we normally do this time of year while trying to kind of figure out all the unknown with the pandemic. That I would say that's probably been the biggest disruption. It's not even a disruption. It's like just this other ginormous thing kerplunked right in the middle of a normally ginormous thing.
Yeah. I'd say I would miss church on Sunday and lunch after. That would be mine.
Eating out. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, this is a tough one. I don't even know if I can answer this. Kara asks, what's your favorite skit of all time?
Gosh, there's been a lot of them. Cafe Le Chew, classic, Bird Fam. I think probably, so we define the word unforgettable as earning a permanent place in the memory. And I would say that the probably most permanent place in the memory skit is one that none of you would remember. This was probably from summer 2000. And it had like Will, I don't remember if Will Parker was in it, Brent Honchell, Jay Albright for sure. But the only thing I remember about it, it was like this little spoof on a like a kiddie ride, and Jay Albright, he was talking kind of like a cowboy, and he said something about these newfangled quesadillas. And to this day, if I ever see quesadillas on a menu, the only thing in my head is newfangled quesadillas. If I ever hear somebody say the word quesadillas, the only thing in my head is newfangled quesadillas. So
funny.
I would say from earning a permanent place in the memory, it would have to be that one from way back in like summer 2004.
That was my first summer as a camper.
Unreal.
It was a long time ago. Leah asks, I don't even know if I know this story. That's kind of bad. When did you get saved?
So I grew up in a Christian home. My mom and dad both knew Jesus from the time that I could remember. We went to church every Sunday and Awana and all that kind of thing. So I prayed a prayer when I was just a kid, like 4 or 5 years old. And as I got into elementary and middle school, I was a good kid, didn't have, it wasn't like super rebellious or whatever, but there was kind of a pinnacle moment for me. When I was in 8th grade, we had a science test and I hadn't worked as hard as I should have. And so I concocted a way that I could keep my eye on my notes during the test. And I cheated through the whole test and I ended up getting caught. And just through that whole situation, I kind of came to realize that, wow, my heart's pretty yucky with sin. And there really hasn't been a real life change. I think I said some words, I prayed a prayer. And so I really look back to that time. In fact, it was a kind of a big day on the world stage. It was January 28th, 1986. It was the day, if you've seen on TV, the day that the space shuttle Challenger exploded. It took off from Cape Canaveral down in Florida, and it exploded, and it was that day. But that was when I came to know Jesus, and my life. I started growing a little bit through middle and high school, and then really kind of the catalyst in my life was when I went to work at camps when I was in college, and just kind of being in an environment where I was investing in a mission bigger than just me. Man, my faith at that point just really took off.
Awesome. Well, let's see. Ethan asks, what's your favorite camp game ever? I'm hoping it's one I've made up.
So those guys that I mentioned in that old school skit, we still have a group chat, and we reminisce often about the games in the early days, which were much more dangerous than the games that we play now. But one of them was right out here on the dam in the front of the lake, and we got a piece of like 20 feet wide, 100 foot long, real thick plastic, and put it down the front of the dam, and soap and water on the plastic, and then we had buckets lining the plastic on either side, and had the teams lined up at the top, and the kids would slide down and try to shoot tennis balls in the buckets, which was awesome. The only problem was there was no real means of stopping at the end. So we had a couple of our counselors, a couple of our staff, Corey Wickline and Matt Brown, these two great big brawny guys. If you've seen the video on our YouTube or on YouTube called The Corinator, Corinator. You need to look it up. It's pretty awesome. That was Corey. So these guys stood down at the bottom with a mattress, and they would just try to hold their own, and the kids would slam into the mattress. And so that was probably one of the more memorable ones. Buck, you probably played Buck when you were a camper. Spoke tackle, all the dangerous ones that we don't play anymore were some of my favorites.
I think one of my favorite moments was when I was a teen camper and you said no more physical contact, because I was 19 tackling 13.
That is true.
That's
that
old
is
school
true.
Woodlands.
So we've scaled back. We've tried to go more unforgettable than injury prone.
Okay, another great question.
Yeah.
Kate just asked, what's your favorite Woodland shirt?
Hey, Kate.
And let's just say of all time, favorite Woodland shirt.
Gosh,
That's a tough one.
it is a tough one. Probably our very first one is just kind of special in my heart. The very first one we ever did, maybe you've seen like throwback commercials from MasterCard did this kind of ad campaign, and it was like, something, this many dollars, something, this many dollars, and then this priceless. And so our very first camp, it kind of looked like a MasterCard on the front, said Woodlands. And it was like, camp shirt, $10, slushy, whatever, 50 cents, best week of your life, priceless, or something like that. So that's a kind of special one. We did the I Love Camp shirts for a long time, and that was, I wore the heck out of that one. I love that one. Recently, we actually have a great great new shirt. I'm not going to tell you about it, but we have a great new shirt coming out this year. So that's going to be in the camp store and online and stuff. So you'll have to watch for that one to come out.
Okay, this is a big one. Jasmine asks, why do bad things happen to good people?
That's a good question. That's one that kind of we all have to wrestle to the ground. And so let me answer it two ways. One, let's start with, why do bad things exist in the first place? And bad things exist in the first place because of sin. If you've been here to camp, from on Wednesday nights, we talk a lot about the idea that God created the world with no bad in it. No sickness and no sadness and no death and no sin. But when sin came in, it broke all of that. So I think that's really important to understand, is that one, just badness and pain and sickness and sadness and death and all of those things exist because of sin. Why do bad things happen to good people is a hard question to answer, because there's a lot of reasons. But I would say, when you look in the Bible, oftentimes bad things happen to good people, not because God's mad, not because necessarily God's punishing, but oftentimes bad things happen to good people because God is refining us. It's the idea, when a goldsmith or a silversmith puts that precious metal into a cauldron and puts that cauldron to fire and melts it down, impurities start floating to the top, and then he skims those off and puts more fire to it, more impurities. And what he's trying to do is to get that precious metal to a point of purity. And I think that's what God does in our lives, that sometimes God allows hard things or bad things to happen in our lives, but it's not because he's mad. It's not because he's disciplining us necessarily. But oftentimes God allows bad things in our lives to make us more like him. And, that's why James says, when you go through hard times, James says, count it all joy, and we're kind of like, what? How can I count bad things as joy? And James would say, well, because that God is sovereign, he's allowing it. And that God loves you, and that God has a plan, and God's plan for you is not just for you to be happy or prosperous or successful. God's plan for you is for you to be mature and complete. And so bad things exist because of sin. God oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes allows those bad things in the lives of good people to make them turn to him, and ultimately so he can produce something within them, that being maturity and completeness.
Awesome. That's a good question. A little more on the lighter side, what's your favorite shiver shake? From Natalie, what's your favorite shiver?
I would have to say that my favorite shiver shake is the same as my favorite cheer, the peanut butter Reese cup.
Really?
Yeah. I've always been in fact, when I was in college, our little snack shop at the college I went to had a similar shake to that, as vanilla ice cream and peanut butter Reese cups. And I got hooked. And so I would have to say the peanut butter Reese cup.
What about that one time you got your chocolate chip cookie dough and chocolate chip cookies?
Yeah.
What do you call that again?
Yeah, the before and after.
The before and after.
Chocolate chip cookie dough is the before, the cookies are the after. That's pretty jam up as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good. I've only done that one time. Let's see. Oh, Camden asked, isn't that your?
That's my nephew. Hi, Camden.
Hi, Camden. What's your favorite Woodlands attraction? Have you done all of them?
I have not jumped on Hero Bungee.
We talked about this way too much.
Yeah, we way too much. Favorite attraction. So I'll answer that two ways. I'll answer that my favorite adventure attraction and my favorite aquatic attraction. My favorite aquatic attraction is the water slides.
Oh, yeah.
I love the water slides because I love it's just fast. My favorite adventure attraction, gosh, zip line, giant swing. I would say probably the giant swing, because there's just something pretty epic about, one, having to pull your own ripcord. And two, the moment you do pull your ripcord, like your stomach is still up here, but the rest of you is like way down here. So those would be my two favorite: water slide, aquatic, and the giant swing, my favorite adventure attraction.
That's awesome. Well, as we wrap up.
Oh, wait.
Oh, we got
one for you.
For me.
This is from Herndon.
You could ask me anything. Your one question would be my favorite trick shot. Like, My personal favorite trick shot, probably the time we did our own trick shot video, and I bounced the ping pong ball into the bass's mouth. No joke, on my second try, and we were all blown away. Those reactions were 100%.
That is pretty amazing.
But actually, that's a good, Delana, can we bring cameras or pros? I'm guessing GoPros to camp.
Yes, so you can bring cameras as long as they're not attached to phones, and you can bring cameras to camp. There are some places that we can use them and can't use them. We don't use them inside, generally inside the cabins or obviously in the bathrooms or that kind of thing. But out and about, absolutely going out and capturing those impactful, unforgettable moments as they happen.
All right. Well, as we wrap up, I don't want to skip the first question that we looked over, but the thing that's on everyone's mind, and someone just asked it again, camp this summer. Yeah. What's the deal?
So this is such a complicated situation. We've just never been through a worldwide pandemic, at least not in our lifetime. And so, we are looking at this thing. I literally spent this entire morning on the phone with some different medical and healthcare professionals that we know and getting their opinion. We've talked about it a lot internally. We have prayed about it a ton. And I know a lot of you are praying about it too. And I'm so thankful for that. And that's where, if you're following the Woodlands Quiet Time plan, it's been really cool. The last couple of days, we've been reading through some chapters in Proverbs, and it talks so much about wisdom. And that is one of the things that we are praying so hard for, is that God would give us the wisdom to know exactly what to do. So if you watched the video last week that we put out last Friday, we shared with you that there were some guiding principles that were helping us make a good decision, because this is obviously a really emotional decision. We love camp, and we love the idea of creating this environment where campers like you can attend Woodlands and experience the most epic, incredible, dare I say, unforgettable week of their life and hear about Jesus. But we want to do that in a safe environment. And so, these four guiding principles are that we are going to, that we're going to trust God no matter what. And if God makes it evident that we should not move forward with camp, we don't understand. We don't even have to like it, but Lord, we trust you. Number two, that we're going to obey authorities. Georgia was the first state to start taking some steps toward reopening. So that potentially plays in our favor. The third thing is that we're gonna value people. We shared with you and with your parents that if we have to cancel camp, we're going to give your money back. If your parents don't feel comfortable with you coming, we're going to give you your money back. If you want to come and you can't afford to come because maybe your mom, dad lost their job through this crazy thing, we'll find a way to get you to camp if we can move forward. But the fourth thing, and kind of the X factor in this, is that we are giving camp every opportunity to happen. We've seen a lot of camps, it's a hard decision for every single leader, every single camp leader. And every camp looks at it differently. We've seen a lot of camps that have gone ahead and canceled, and we have kind of drug our feet on that, wanting to give camp every opportunity to happen because we feel like it's worth it. We don't have a decision made yet. I think there's some things from our governor that give us hope that camp can happen. And we are watching closely what our governor is saying. We are watching closely what our local health department is saying. We are watching closely and listening closely to what the healthcare professionals are saying. We are moving forward as if camp is going to happen. So we are working on developing all of the sanitation protocols, as far as, okay, what does it look like to maybe distance at camp? What's it look like to, sanitize the bathrooms 4 times a day? What's it look like? We're figuring all of that out to where if we get a piece of information that says we can move forward, then we're ready to move forward. So we are, just know this is really, really important to us. And it's not a financial thing. It's not an emotional thing. It's important to us because God has called us to inspire and equip the next generation to do justly and to love mercy and walk humbly with God. And so we are being patient. We're giving camp every opportunity to happen. We're asking as many people for advice and for counsel as we can possibly get. And if we feel like that we can move forward with the blessing of our state and local authorities, and while providing a safe, healthy environment for you, we are going to do that. So we're gonna keep watching. No decisions yet because we don't have quite enough information, but I think we're closer to a decision than we were a couple of weeks ago. And like I said, we see some things that we feel like might give us some hope. And as soon as we have an answer to share with you, we'll jump back on and we'll do another video. In fact, I think we're going to try to put out another video next Friday and just update you and your parents on where we're at in the decision-making process. But continue praying for us. And the areas that you can pray is, one, that God would give us the wisdom to know exactly what to do. And just know this is a hard decision either way. Two, that God would be busy about the work of preparing your heart as campers, our staff's heart, our speakers' hearts, so that if and when camp can happen, the pump will be primed for camp to be impactful. And then number three, that God would provide the opportunity for as many kids as possible to attend Woodlands this summer, experience an unforgettable week, and hear about Jesus.
Awesome. Well, on behalf of the people watching, the people that submitted questions, thank you so much for answering those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. This is so fun. Thank you all for hanging out and for logging in, and maybe we'll try to do this again sometime. This concludes our last episode of the first season of Woodlands Plus. Hopefully this is not the last season of Woodlands Plus. We'll be thinking and working toward what season 2 needs to look like. Yeah. And like I said, we will keep you posted as to every step along the way as we inch toward a decision, hopefully a decision where we can move forward with camp, and we'll keep you guys posted. All right. Awesome. So y'all stay safe, stay healthy, keep praying, and hopefully we'll see you this summer.
Have a great day.